Season 1, Episode 14, Max's Enemy. I was really confused about this episode at first, until I realized what's actually happening here. See, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a show called The Donkey Kong Country Show. It's one of the worst shows I've ever seen. I don't say that hyperbolically, or like, someone who hasn't ingested a tremendous quantity of fiction. It's one of the worst shows I've ever seen. It might actually be the bottom of the barrel. And the Donkey Kong Country Show, for all its amazing, incredible, stellar quality, has this one thing which is a very, very constant through every single episode. See, there's this concept. Forgive me, I know some of you have already heard me talk about this before, but I've been told many, 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 many times, I need to not assume everyone's seen every video I put out, especially since I put out like 5 a day. There's this concept called the idiot ball. Now, the idiot ball it's bad writing. Let's just start with that. Idiot ball does not refer to someone being stupid. There's lots of ways in which you can have someone be unintelligent and have that make sense. Maybe they're in the moment, they do something they regret. Maybe they aren't really thinking about the consequences. Maybe they're just an unintelligent person. But the idiot ball is specifically bad writing, because it's when someone does something that makes no sense, almost always to drive the plot forward, right? So, yeah, they're being an idiot, but in a way that isn't logical, or isn't well written, or isn't worked towards, or is out of character, or whatever, right? Idiot ball sucks, and again, it is always a negative trope. So, the Donkey Kong Country Show's biggest feature, and I mean this, isn't the nightmarish animation or the weird singing things. It's the fact that there's this idiot ball which everyone is playing ping pong with as rapid fire as they can in that show. And I realized that what happened here was they were playing ping pong with it so hard that it bounced right off of Congo Bongo Island all the way over to Corona. And now all of a sudden everyone has the idiot ball in this episode. Up to and including Max to some extent. And that's the problem. When everyone, yeah, even Rapunzel had the idiot ball, briefly, but it was still there. That's impressive. When everyone has the idiot ball, that's not great. So Max shows up. So let's get to the beginning of the episode. The beginning of the episode, Max is like, hey, I'm amazing, and everyone loves me, and everyone's like showering me with praise, and it's so hilariously, ridiculously over the top that the moment they started just gushing about Max, I'm like, got it, I know where this is going. And I was right. Although it's worth noting there's actually 2 directions they could take that in. It's pathetically obvious, right? So, okay, cool. I do like, there's one gag that got a chuckle out of me. Everyone says, stop, thief! And I paused the scene to see, and all of the bar goers, Lance and Shorty, all immediately throw up their hands into the air like, we're done, we're done. So, then Axel shows up, and yeah, okay, Axel's the one who's going to be stomping on Max's ego. He is, of course, black, thicker, in fact, he looks like he's a Clydesdale, and naturally, just like predicted, everyone instantly forgets that Max even exists, even though Max has literal years of stellar, high-profile service in service to the Royal Guard. No, Axel is the latest hotness, so he's awesome. Cool. Now, the episode does something then which makes me think, hold up, maybe it won't be total trash. Because Max actually seems happy to have a fellow horse on the force. And so he's like, cool, yeah, let's go, let's take that. And then Axel's like, sweet. And then Axel's a dick to him. And then he's a dick to him. And then he's a dick to him. And then my first personal favorite bit is that there's this wonderful bit where there's the apples, which, by the way, every apple costs a coin. Jesus Christ. I'm not even going to get into the economics of that. Let's just move on for a second. He goes to take an apple. All the apples fall down, and all of the people walk up and are all chastising Max. I actually bothered to pay attention to this, but every single person there is like, oh my god, Max, you've knocked everything over, and you're pathetic, and you're terrible. That's not going to work. Why are you doing that? What's wrong with you? Ugh. And it's like 3 or 4 people all basically just being like, oh man, Max sucks so badly. And that's the exact moment at which the episode lost me. Axel quite literally gets the girl while Max gets yelled at by the old lady. He also steals Max's room. Did you notice Max's room has a lot of medals in it? You'd think someone else would remember that. So then Axel joins the Royal Guard, just like that. What? And everything they're doing is completely trying to make out Axel to be just amazingly good. Can I just say really, really quick here? I mentioned earlier that I called it, but the truth is there's two directions they could have taken this in. Either Axel's actually fine, and Max needs to learn a lesson about jealousy, which is not good, or Axel is actually secretly evil, and Max is going to have been right all along, which isn't good. In fact, if you're paying attention, it's kind of something that I've railed against for a long time. It's the idea of someone being right, even though logic dictates elsewise. Okay. This is also worth noting that the guard captain continues to really suck. He doesn't even know his own rulebook. Again, by the way, that's not the first time that's shown up. And he's really starting to grate on me more and more. And it's this funny thing, because early Eugene pissed me off so hard immediately. The captain has been slowly pissing me off. You know what I mean? The guard captain. Like, he's not as bad as early Eugene, but he's consistently bad. And that's kind of a different type of worse, isn't it? Where it's just, yeah, exactly, it's the rock in the shoe. Rather than being stabbed through the foot, which is early Eugene, this is just... and it's just there. And it's just irritating. And it's like, God damn it, game. I mean, show. Everything's a game. We know this. Everything's a game. Let's just get it out there. Even my car's a game. I also want to comment on the fact that the tests that they show are ridiculous. That Max is completely humiliated and consistently humiliated. That there's this really awful thing where, like, even the guards are like, oh yeah, I bought a new helmet just for Axel. Don't let him see me with dents in my helmet. Gush, gush, gush. His dick is so big. You have no... I mean, he's a horse, so... And yeah, there's no good reason for us to humiliate Axel. It's just here for fun. And that's why Max. I've screwed up their names. There's no reason for Max to be humiliated here, which is why Axel gets the asshole tag for the episode. Because yes, he's obviously a villain, but him being a villain doesn't mean he has to be an asshole. He's an asshole. And I'll talk more about that in just a second, because first I want to talk about how this episode is dragging. Was that just me? I actually double-checked the timer. I reached about the 8-minute mark. And I thought the episode was almost over, honestly, because everything has just been slogging for some reason. Yeah, exactly. I was just waiting for the episode to be over. I've said this before, and I'll say this again. A really good episode is one where you don't notice it's been 40 minutes. A really bad episode is when it's been 4 minutes and you think it's been 40 minutes. Remember how many times in both Andor and Arcane, I know I'm going for the jugular here, but it's recent, I was like, oh my god, the episode's over. Like, all 40 minutes had passed, and I barely processed it because the pacing was excellent, and because the sequencing was excellent, and because the events kept me engaging, and I was never dulled or bored or dragged. By contrast, here I'm just sitting here going, we go. Tiny little detail, I do like how everyone calls him Maximus in his dream. I mention that because most of them don't actually say Maximus in real life. They say Max. They shorten it, just like I'm doing. But in his own dream, it's always Maximus. Tiny little detail. I did actually like that. So, of course, Axel is super good at everything, and Max is super wrong about everything, and Rapunzel finally yells at Axel. Or, sorry, no, I screwed up the names. Finally yells at Maximus. And that's pretty much officially the line. Do you know what makes Axel an asshole? How many of you have ever dealt with someone? Now, I have more experience with this in real life, but this is the kind of thing I think most people experience more in internet venues, where there's someone who is a dick to you. They're the one who's provoking. They're the one who's starting crap. They're the ones who threw the first punch. They're the ones who told the first insult. But they know how to stay hidden, so they provoke you, act innocent, you react, you get in trouble. You know that type, right? Yeah, it's exactly adjacent to the Cassandra truth, ironically. And yeah, the dick is praised, and you, the innocent, get the blame. I hate that. Almost everybody I know hates that. And that's why he's the asshole. Is because it's not just the fact that he's villainous, which would have been fine, it's the fact that he's that particular brand of a bully. And yeah, I've had that happen to me in person in real life many times, actually. In fact, like I said, I feel like I just said this, I have more experience with that in person than online. So, that's cool. So then Lady Kane shows up for like 2 minutes. I was actually surprised. I was like, oh, Lady Kane's back. And she's gone again. Why even do that? That's so confusing. You spent so much of this episode on this stupid, idiot ball bouncing nonsense plot to establish how terrible Max is and how awesome Axel is. And then, oh, by the way, Lady Kane. What? And then she's defeated. What? Huh? I'm not even talking about like any of the other filler stuff. It's just, and she's gone. And like the episode even ends on like the most wah-wah kind of a way. Yeah, she's been in the dungeon for months now. Just hanging out. Yeah, if you don't even watch the intro movie, who is this person? What are we thinking for rating? That's actually a good question. Why isn't she on the prison barge? They were going to send Attila to the prison barge immediately. So here's the deal. I actually have been doing a lot of discussion over the last several weeks here, both in Star Trek but also in the shows we've been covering about the colors. And obviously the color system it's extremely subjective. But it all boils down to, does it have that extra oomph? I already know my answer to this. I knew my answer to this immediately. But I'm kind of asking you all here. Because I do like... One of the things I like to do is I like to poll people's opinions. It's not quite the full, like, peer review vetting thing I do for the game reviews. But, you know, I still want to have at least other people's thoughts and opinions. Even if I don't ultimately agree with them, you know, it's nice to see other people's perspectives. It's actually funny. We were talking just last night, me and the Trek lore runny. We were talking about how even Lamentations have a gradient to them, right? For example, I gave Coda Lamentation status over on Voyager, which I stand behind, it's worth noting. But also Threshold, which is the worst episode of Star Trek ever made. They're both Lamentations. I stand by that firmly, but like you could see how there's this gradient of quality there. Which brings me to this. I'm actually with Lord Harrimont here. I think the assholery of Axel, the fact that he got away with it almost consistently, the smug dickishness of being that particular brand of bully, culminating in actually getting even Rapunzel to yell at Max for doing his job, I feel like adding. The whole time while Axel's over there looking smug. That's that final speck of ugh. And that's what pushes it down into Lamentation. I would agree that this is high Lamentation, gray, or whatever. But for me, I think this one is down there. I think it qualifies. This is just what in God's name is going on with this episode. I've seen worse, but not on this show. Just the one, Spartan. This is our first Lamentation. Hopefully our only Lamentation. As usual, I never hope for multiple lamentations. I guess, duh. I feel weird saying that. Of course I don't hope for multiple lamentations. Oh, I'm sorry. If you mean for all the shows we've been covering, this is our 5th lamentation. Because in DKC we had a lamentation, a lamentation, a lamentation, and a lamentation. Which is funny, because even amongst those 4, there's one that's worse than the rest, and that's Kong for a Day, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it was Kong for a Day. I'm right. I'm not joking. It's the column of black. Magister called it the other day. It's the column of black. Okay, fair, Lord Harriman. Kong for a Day is so bad. It's so bad. It's so bad. Okay. I want to lay down, but I want to get there. I'm like excited. I'm feeling. We're right there. We're right on the edge. We're right on the edge of the episode. Everyone tells me is going to finally catch me. I've actually heard it from 3 people now. So next we're going to cover The Way of the Willow.